Light and peace, peace and light. Topic of discussion from the OahspeCollegeUniversity today is perfect example of Satan. In my last video, I did a video about Satan and God are the same thing. So that video was just to show how Satan is described or based on the character or behavior that person exhibit. So today I'm just gonna go to the OahspeCollegeUniversity real quick and show verses from the OahspeCollegeUniversity how Satan actually behaves based on the character. In this video, there was a lot of angels to use, but why not use the one that is dominating in our current era? We're in the year 2022, so I decided to use the Christian God. So I'm going to be using the Christian God as Satan, and he's a perfect example of Satan. So I'm going to go to the book of Extra, chapter 12, verse 5 to 7. Verse 5, and in less than 100 years of Agi, that's substance that come from Etheria. Many of the lords were without kingdom. In other words, after Agi dropped on our world for a period of time, all of these lords in heaven, they lost their kingdom, including, I'm driving to something. So this Christian God was once a lord who was serving the Creator with few chosen friends, and had many become involuntarily wandering spirits scattered about in all the heavens of the earth and upon the earth. God, true God now, verse 6, saw this, and he called out to them. So he calling on all these lords through his messengers, saying, having lost your kingdoms, why would you lose yourself? You see that? Because now they're not doing anything in heaven, because they lost their kingdom. And true God is asking them question like, hey, what are you guys doing? Come on, let's do something else. Why would you lose yourself? Is it not better? You see that you fall to walk in the remaining kingdom, and by your steadfastness to help maintain faith in Jehovah in the hearts of the less learned. You see that? Yes, these are lords now, and they lost their kingdom. So true God is telling them, why can't you guys go to another kingdom? Go join other kingdoms so that you can help. So I'm going to pause for a minute. This actually happened in our world. It's not different so I'm going to use a church, how one Christian church is having financial difficulties, right? Now, you have another church. It's the same name of the church, but different branch. But you're having financial difficulties. You're losing your members. You have no way to pay the bill. Why can't you merge with the same name, same branch now? But that pastor in that church will say, I ain't going nowhere. This is the same thing happening in heaven. Verse 7. But Satan gained access to their soul, saying to each of one of them, you have been lords of this host of heaven. You take a place like a common laborer. You see that? Now Satan, is talking to them in their soul, say, hey, if you go to another kingdom, you'll be worthless. You will be laughed at. You see that? The non-resistant policy is good enough in times and places of peace. But now it's war. So you see, this is interesting. And war can only be overcome by war. If great dyers, dyers here is Anu, which people will be equivalent of it would be Anu Hasaj. Okay, the great dyers was overcome and cast into hell. Why not our God also? So they did not heed God. So true God is asking them, hey, why don't you just merge with another company? With another heaven, and join another heavenly kingdom. They wouldn't heed. So I'm showing you the beginning of Satan, which is the Christian God, because he was one of the Lord that came, right, to true God, because he lost his kingdom. He started as a Lord. Now I'm going to go to the book of Extra, chapter 13, verse 1 to 10. I want you to listen to this verse 1 to 10, chapter 13, because this is juicy, but you can go read. If you're interested in the Christian God, go read the entire book of Extra. Just go and read the book of Extra. If you want to see how the Christian God is among us. Okay? So the book of Extra, chapter 13, verse 1 to 10. Verse 1. And Lord and high officers whose heavenly place had fallen came to paradise in different companies of 10, 20s, and even hundreds from various heavenly regions around and about the earth, and having secured audience before God and his holy council, and they said, verse 2, since we have been faithful in all things. Now they're trying to come challenge God through God in paradise. Now, hey, look, we've been true lords. We worked for the Creator. So what is our gain? This is the argument now. Satan already got into them. Since we have been faithful in all things and dutifully servant to Jehovah, what have we gained? Our kingdom and high places have fallen into pieces through no fault of our own. So they're trying to justify, why should they, they're trying to make a justification to true God here. Indeed, our ages have gone off into anarchy. Where then is the justice of the Creator? So, they asking questions. They're asking God questions here. These are lords. These are angels who serve the Creator now. God said to them, of what profit under the sun is this discussion? Verse 4, if you fail in one way, try another. Exactly. If you fail in one way, go to another place, go to another kingdom. Try another. In no case, seek to justify yourself before the Creator. He is judge. There you go. Verse 5. They are already hells. They have been standing for years. You see, God is like telling them there are other work we can do. We got hells here that has been standing for years. Is it not wiser that you join together and go and deliver them? You see that? Behold, Jehovah has furnished us roadway beforehand, and his voice came to us prophesying that this very darkness will come upon us. And you were advised and had sufficient time to provide for the worst. What God is saying here is that they were given enough time. They were given, it's no difference in our world. Right now, we're in the winter. So snow can come any day. And on the national TV or even on Google, they will tell you what day is going to snow. And if they tell you the snow is going to be like 12 feet, you better start prepared. You're going to have to prepare yourself. A lot of people are going to call in sick. You're going to take a day off. You're going to prepare yourself. Some people might not even be able to go off for 2 days. It's no different. That's the AGI, the happen. I'm going to continue. And you were advised and had sufficient time to provide for the worst. Verse 6. Go forth then, not complaining, but rejoicing in Jehovah's name, doing it with all your wisdom and strength and regardless of favor. Verse 7. Thus they came before God, group after group, for years, but were forever rebuked in the spirit of Jehovah, and they went away, but none for walk righteously, but to sympathize, you see that, with one another, to complain against God and against the holy council of paradise. Now they're complaining against God now. They're complaining against his kingdom, saying, hey, it's no different. Let's say, for example, snow was to happen tomorrow. I'm just using this. And then we knew. And then they say, a lot of trees was going to fall down, right? I'm just giving you an example. And then, most people would take your car and they go parking in the parking lot. Especially for those who live in New York City, right? And then imagine you didn't go park your car in the parking lot, and then the tree, due to snow, the tree fell on your car. And then now you go complain to the city, or you go complain to your councilman or your councilman. It's no different here. They're complaining, or they're going to call the insurance company if you have full coverage. But for those who don't have full coverage, they got no problem. Anyway, verse 7. Thus they came before God, group after group for years, but were forever rebuked in the spirit of Jehovah, and they went away, but not to walk righteously, but to sympathize with one another, and to complain against God and against the holy council of paradise. Verse 8. In groups they assembled in their own in places of their own, and began to philosophize on ways of heaven and earth. And everyone was sworn within himself to do no evil thing, but to find some respectable way of serving Jehovah than going among ignorant and different. Verse 9. And they become accustomed to meeting regularly in 3 places in Ada. in Aratus over Vindhya, that's India, in Itashua over Chinea, that's China, and here is the key word, in Apisinga over Egypt. Here is where the Christian God started his dominance. He based in Abyssinia over Egypt, and this became like a great heavenly cities because of the congregation of angels of heaven, which continued for many years. Verse 10. And now finally they resolved to organize each one of these three places, each under a distant head, and unite the three heads into one confederation, which they were to dedicate it to the service of Jesus. You see that? So now these three angels are saying, hey, we're going to create our own confederation in order to serve the Creator. That was the entire purpose, right? Thus founded the Confederation of the Holy Ghost. And by acclamation, three angels were raised to three capitals, namely Kabbalistic of Aratus, Inosia of Inosia, and Luomong of Abyssinia. So Luomong took over the kingdom of Abyssinia in Egypt, and each and every one of these three took the title, you see that, Son of the Holy Ghost, and three had been lords and way high in grade. So yeah, you have the Christian God who was once serving the Creator, but because the God was telling him, hey, go to other kingdoms, or go lift up hell. Go take care of, go to other kingdoms. He didn't want to, but Satan kept on talking to his soul, saying, hey, come on, think about it. This guy was high in grade. So he felt degraded, right? So now he formed a confederacy, and they formed a confederacy, and he declared he declared himself Son of the Holy Ghost. I want you to remember this. So he declared himself Son of the Holy Ghost. True God and the Creator, right, did not give him this title. That's number one. This is why he is Satan, right? So we're going to continue. I want you to continue to listen to the saga of this Christian God to show you clearly this is a perfect example of Satan. His original plan was to serve the Creator, but this title was not given to him by the Creator, nor was it given by the true God of paradise. In the book of Exodus, chapter 18, verse 14 to 17, verse 21 to 24, and verse 31 to 32. Now hear this now. They've declared the Holy Ghost Confederacy, right? Now I want you to listen to this. Verse 14, we propose war in the name of the Holy Ghost. Now here is a God. Here is a God of Holy Ghost. Here is the Holy Ghost, Son of the Holy Ghost, who said he's serving the Creator. So if you're serving the Creator, why are you proposing war? Verse 14, we propose war in the name of the Holy Ghost, both on earth and in heaven. We can have no war with you or your people on earth. He's talking about he doesn't want a war with the Jehovahans, with the Faithists, but he's going to war with anybody else. But this is funny. Let me continue. We propose war. So if you're serving the Creator, why are you proposing war? So right here, you're Satan. This is a perfect example of a Satan. With you or your people on earth and in heaven, for you and your people, angels and mortals, all people, all angels and mortals are all peace and do not war. So he's telling them, your people do not war. That's clear. From verse 14, he's telling the Jehovahans and the Faithists, I know in heaven y'all don't war. And I also know on earth, in our world, you guys do not war. Fine. Verse 15, our wars can only be with warriors. I put the matter this way. Now he's trying to they sent a messenger to the true God to give the messenger. This is a messenger delivering message to true God now, right? Our wars can only be with warriors. I put the matters this way. You have a virgin daughter and a villain has slain her. Your doctrine is to rush in and take your daughter away from him. Our doctrine is to beat him away from her. Verse 16, we see evil gods and evil spirits are stealing virtuous people on earth and in heaven. We propose war. We propose toward them to destruction. One, for righteousness' sake. How could you create righteousness out of destruction? This makes no sense, right? Accordingly, we are more to your favor, O God, than against you. He's trying to justify now that if we destroy the evil gods and the evil spirit, we doing God and Jehovah, the creator of favor. How is this making sense on verse 16, right? So here's a Satan. Here's Satan talking. Here is the Christian God and his Confederacy talking here, right? Verse 17. We dip our hands in blood for the sake of peace and virtue. Now just to remind you, the Christian God cannot create any human being. He cannot create an animal, but he's destroying here. We dip our hands in blood for the sake of peace and virtue, for the sake of liberty and knowledge. We shall say to man of heart, you shall become land. To the Asian in heaven, that's a spirit, a newly born spirit in heaven. You shall not return to mortals, but remain in your place and become land and virtuous. Verse 21. God said, you have said our doctrine is to beat the villain away from the virgin. But what will you or your example teach? Tennis, that's the messenger of the Confederate, the Holy Trinity God, right? Which Luomon, the Christian God, is one of them. Verse 22, Tennis answered that an assailant deserves punishment. So now he's saying destruction is allowed, war is allowed. Now he's not hiding to it. He's saying punishment is also okay. So here is a Christian God who is exhibiting Satan. A perfect example of Satan is the Christian God. One, punishment is okay. Blood in the sake of peace is okay. Destruction is okay, and war is okay. I'm gonna go to verse 31. And the people will worship an imaginary figure of three parts: Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Now it's introducing a new way of worship, okay? And this will become their idol. He will be accredited with love, anger, jealousy, favoritism, war, and destruction. Look at that. This is the attribute of Satan, though. They're gonna get anger. So the people who was going to be worshiping the Christian God in the form of three parts, Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost, the result is going to be anger. They're going to get jealousy. Of course, favoritism. Because 1 minute, the Christian God don't like this human, he likes another one. He's going to start playing favoritism. And then, of course, war is going to happen. Right? And then destruction, verse 32. Because you say, give punishment to the wicked, you open the doors of all evil. You see that? For he who has quarreled with his neighbor, we accuse him as deserving punishment. Those who are in darkness and being mighty will fall upon the weak and slay them. So true God trying to tell them, hey, look, your doctrine is producing anger, it's producing jealousy, favoritism, war, and destruction. Of course, they ain't going to listen to God. They're not going to listen to true God. And if I'm here now, from there, I'm going to go to the book of Extra, chapter 41, verse 27 to 30. Todd, who happens to be the chief god, saying, who is fighting against Baal, which happens to be a pagan god, he described him, Paul, as an evil god. Okay? Now, this is interesting. Verse 27. Todd is chief warrior angel, right? So this Todd happens to be the chief warrior angel of the Christian God, fighting against Baal, as said, most holy Trian, I must give mortals a name to fight for. The term Holy Ghost is no longer potent. In other words, Todd coming to the Christian God and say, hey, look, if you want me to fight and you want my angels, the humans, to fight for you, you got to give me a name that have potency. Because already the people the humans in the world are getting smarter. They're like, please, Holy Ghost, please, we had that already. Come on, give us something new. Verse 28. So Lumo falsely assumed to be God and the Lord of heaven and earth. So second problem. First, he took the title of the Holy Ghost. Now, because the Holy Ghost is no longer potent, I want you to see the deceit and lie. Thou shalt not lie. Here is the Christian God being Satan here. Now he took another name. Now I want you to listen to this. Verse 29, verse 28. So Lumo falsely assumed to be the God, the Lord of heaven and earth. So he took upon himself now. He's now assuming to be the God now of heaven and earth. He said to Todd, go tell mortals, I am the same God who wrought wonders for the Israelite. And behold, the Israelite will fight for me. Thor did this, and furthermore, Luomon destroyed a mortar extra to gather all the records he could to be the proof of his labor for the Israelite. You see that? Another deceit and lie. So now he's lying that he's the God of heaven and earth. Remember in the previous chapter, he proclaimed himself Son of the Holy Ghost, and he took the name, the Holy Ghost. He took a title, Holy Ghost. Then because God said your Holy Ghost is no longer put it. Now he took up another name for the second time. The book of Exodus, chapter 45, verse 17 to 19. We all knew these things before the Holy Confederacy was formed. Yes, one of the chief reasons for forming a confederacy in heaven was that we could be more effectually overcome the power of evil spirits over mortals. Verse 18, in that day we said the three persons, the Son, the Father, the Holy Ghost, will enable us to appear in person and with authority to mortals. You see that? So the Christian gods, they're trying to make a justification here because humans are beginning to ask them questions. Verse 19, behold, it has now come to pass that mortals, you see that, desire a more definite God, one known to them. So now they're going, hey, the humans are getting smarter. They're asking too much questions. Now they don't want the Holy Ghost no more. They don't want to hear about the God of heaven and earth because they've heard that. They want a definite God. They want something more powerful. Give us more. We cannot truthfully take the name of any God taught as name. You see that? Nor of any other God worshipped by mortals. Yes, the Christian God having a meeting. He having a meeting with his confederacy now. He's having a meeting with his council. They're trying to come up with a new scheme, a new lie, right? You see that? Now I'm going to go to the next chapter. I just want to drive. I am doing this to show you how the Christian God is Satan. Yes, a perfect example of Satan. Right? The book of Ezra, chapter 41, verse 9 to 10. Luomon said, I do not come to bring peace, but war. So he's declaring he does not bring peace. He's not a God of peace. He's a God of war. I come to set nation against nation, people against people, man against man, for righteous sake. I will purify this earth with human blood. Yeah, you have it. Yes, you're Satan. Christian God is a Satan. Yes, a perfect example. Verse 9, he completely declared himself, saying, you know what? I'm giving you war. I am setting nation against nation, people against people, man against people. I will purify this earth, this world with human blood. So he's going to kill. This is what he's saying. Now, remember, he said, thou shalt not kill. Because when you read the Christian Bible, the Christian God said, thou shalt not kill. But yeah, verse 9, he's killing. He's declaring war. Verse 10, I will not have halfway peace. I will destroy my enemies, east and west, north and south. By the Holy Ghost, I have sworn it. You see that? This is no sugarcoating. Clearly, yes, or Satan. You're looking for Satan, you got yourself a Christian God, right? Now, I'm going to go to the book of Extra, chapter 47. I'm going to read from verse 3 to 7, verse 30 to 38, because this is really juicy. And I want you to listen to this carefully. And if you're interested to read more, you can go read the book of Extra on your own accord. Verse 3, nevertheless, Luomon had proclaimed in heaven and earth that he was Christ, which is the Aramaic expression of all knowledge. So now we have another problem. One, you declare yourself Holy Ghost. Two, you declare yourself the God of heaven and earth. Now you declare yourself Christ, which is equivalent or equal to all knowledge. There's only one all knowledge, and that's the Creator. Now you declare yourself the author lie. Another lie. Verse 4, the Lord said, now therefore Luomon was from this time forward a false God in heaven and earth, because he declared himself Christ. Verse 5, and Luomon commanded Thoth, his angel warrior in command of his earthly dominion, to raise up tribes of warriors among mortals. If this guy was a peaceful God, if this guy was a justified, a benevolent God, why can't you just raise humans to upend technology? Why can't you do where you can feed provide better agriculture? Why can't you eradicate poverty? But you're not eradicating poverty. The Christian God is not eradicating poverty. Look at what he's doing. He's raising up tribes of warriors. What happened to eradicating poverty? What happened to providing us better job, inspire thought, and your angels to give us better job, to expand better job? You see that? What happened to better education, better agriculture? None of that is in the Christian God's equation because he's Satan. Verse 6, and by the inspiration of thought, these warriors were induced to call themselves Christians. You see that? Verse 7, God says, so that man may know this is true. Behold, the followers of Jehovah are not warriors, nor have they ever been. You see that? So now the true God is saying, hey, the followers of the Creator, the followers of Jehovah, they're not warriors. This is Christians now. And that's why that's why taught the angel induced them to call themselves Christians. Verse 30. From this time forward, I shall not go. Here is the Christian God making another declaration here. From this time forward, I shall not go down to send peace on earth. I shall not go down to send peace, but a sword. You see that? Verse 31. I go to set man at variance against his brother and father, and woman against her sister and mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. He created war. Let them fight each other. How we make the foes of a man those of his own household. Interesting. Verse 33. He who loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. He who loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. Verse 34. He who will not take up a sword and proclaim me is not worthy of me. My signs, verse 35, shall be sword, a score, and crossbone, and a bow. You see that? He's declaring sword, anarchy, war. You see that? Against families, brothers and sisters. Against family members, against household, against neighbors, against father and mothers. Verse 37, every knee shall bow down before me. Every tongue shall confess me, Lord of all. Verse 38, behold, I will give them a book and a guide by which they shall know me in blood. I will seal them to the end of the world. Now, verse 38 is talking about the Christian book, which they call the King James Bible today. When you look at that book, you got nothing but war, anarchy, lies, deceit. You got satanism from the Old Testament all the way down to the New Testament. The New Testament, they even talk about slavery. Obey your master. That's in New Testament, because I'm driving to something. In the New Testament, forget about it. There's slavery all over. But the New Testament come, you still got slavery. I'm driving to something, okay? So now I'm going to go to the book of Extra, chapter 48, verse 1 to 2, 10 to 12, 45, and then 50 to 51, right? So the Lord said, while lo among the false god was yet bewailing, behold, thought his eagle, his chief warrior came upon him, saying, alas, O master, your followers have no king. He's about to create another major problem again, right? Now, keep in mind, he declared himself Holy Ghost. He declared Lord of God of heaven and earth. Then he declared himself Christ. Now, thought his chief warrior came to him saying, hey, there's another problem. You need to create something else, right? Alas, O master, your followers have no king or queen on earth to protect them. Lo among, verse 10, I'm fast forwarding. You can read the book of Exodus chapter 48 and read the entire chapter what happened, but I'm fast forwarding to show proof that the Christian God is Satan. Verse 10, lo amongst cried out, enough, O thought, I too will have a mortal empire. So now he's going to have a king. He's going to create a king, or he's going to go get a king. So now he's going to get a king. 11, descend again to the earth, to Athias, Custody, and inspire him to raise a mortal army of 40,000 men and move upon Roma. You see that verse 12. Behold, I will prove myself before Artaeus. He shall convert to me. Through him I will drive Baal out of Roma. And as I make myself Christ of heaven, so will I make Artaeus emperor of the world. Doesn't that make sense to you? When you really look at the historical events, you notice that that Constantine was trying to take over the world. That rings a bell, right? That was the Christian God telling them to covet other people's country. That's Satan right there. To move from one country to the other by killing people, by overthrowing the government, by overthrowing the land, by taking over the land. There you go. Verse 45. And this Christ was declared God and Lord of all the nations of the earth. Artaeus, verse 50 said, the gods will not let us choose any man. So now, just to fast forward, in verse 50 now they want to create another concept. They introduce in a book, but they don't know what name to give to the people, so they will be able to put the souls of the people into bondage, right? So Artaeus said, the gods will not let us choose any man. Now therefore hear me. All of the lawgivers chosen by the gods have been Aisu. Since we cannot make preference as to a man, let us say the man Aisu. Verse 51. And so the name Aisu was adopted, and the sacred book were written accordingly. This Aisu, and when you look at the King James Version, that was printed from the year 1611 all the way before the year 1611, you will clearly see the name Aisu, I-E-S-U. This name later on, after the year 1611, they started converting it to Jesu, J-E-S-U. Afterward, they started calling it Jesus. But when you look at old Bibles that was created during the year 1611, even before that, you will see this name Aisu exist. I-E-S-U. Yeah, you have it. So now, the Christian God created another deceit to deceive the people. Brothers and sisters, yeah, you have it. Another madness, another nonsense created. You tell me that this Christian God is not Satan, deceiving the people, right? So now to further continue, right? So now when you look at the book of Ezra chapter 51, right? The people, when they die, when these Christians die, right? Look at what the Christian God do to them in heaven, right? Verse 14, book of Ezra chapter 51, verse 14. Such was the magnificence of each of the four heavenly places of the four Eden gods. So we're talking about the Christian God, the Muslim God, the Buddha God, and the Hindu/Brahmin God, right? I use the Hindu God. And define only a little from one another, right? Verse 15. In order to obtain the privilege of just going to look upon the throne and his God. So if you want to look upon the throne of the Christian God, one had to first serve 100 years in labor of that, in heaven now. So in order for me to see the Christian God, in order for Christians to see the Christian God, they got to now serve 100 years just to look to his throne, to have one record good during all the time. Verse 16. If in his mortal life a man had served his God by preaching and praying, or by fighting battles for him. Let's pause for a minute. So you see that? So tell me this is now Satan. So you got to fight for him during your mortal life, and then thus you've attained a good record. You see that? So one of your qualification, right? If you serve your God correctly, you got to do battle for him. The preaching part and the praying, I'm not concerned. I'm more concerned about the fighting battle for him. Does attain a good record. 100 years servitude in heaven, enticing him to visit God on his throne and at a distant name above. Interesting. Verse 17. But if a mortal had been an enemy to the God during his earth life, he could not attain to approach the throne in less than 300 years. of servitude. So servitude, you're serving, you're doing some type of service. You see that? You're not learning anything. uh, which service consists of, you see, look at this. The service that you're going to do for 300 years consists of laboring in building mansions. So you're building mansions for the Christian God, paving roads in heaven, bringing produce up from earth, and bringing up other atmospheric elements for the gratification and glory of the Christian God and his 10 millions of high officers. Look at this madness, right? Now, and finally, right? In the book of Exodus, chapter 59, verse 13 to 14. Now, here's just if someone trying to, here's a bigger problem, right? Here's what this year seals the deal that the Christian God is Satan. Book of Exodus, chapter 59, verse 13 to 14. Touching on the matter of our slaves. So he's declaring the Christians in heaven that he's a slave. So he's the master, he's the slave master, of whom we have more than 18 billion. Without slavery, they will do nothing in heaven. Look at that. He is a master. He's declaring himself a slave master. And he's saying that without slavery, they will do nothing in heaven. For the most part, would inhabit mortals as vampires, demons, and crafters, which is reincarnator, and familiars. Verse 14. Only by holding them as slaves can we restrain them from vice versa. Look at this. Yeah, you have it, brothers and sisters. The Christian God of prophet. Today's topic was just to show, to provide a perfect example of Satan. And I use the Christian God as a perfect example. There were other couple of stuff, but I felt like using the Christian God because when you look at Christianity today, there's a high volume of followers. And this is just to show that, you know, when you go to heaven as a Christian, you're a slave. You become a slave. Right there. No sugarcoating. This is not like made up story. OahspeCollegeUniversity captures this. So I'm just going to read one more time, right? So the book of Exodus, chapter 51. I'm just going to read verse 17. But if the mortal have been an enemy to the God during his earth life, he could not attain to approach the throne in less than 300 years servitude, which service consists of laboring in building mansions or paving roads in heaven, or bringing produce bringing up all the atmospheric elements for the gratification and glory of the God and his tens of millions of high officers. Look at this. And then in the book of Exodus, chapter 59, verse 13 to 14, touching on the masters of slaves, on whom we have 18 billion. Look at this. Without slavery, they will do nothing in heaven. Verse 14, only by holding them as slaves can we restrain them from vice versa. Look at this. So the Christian God cannot eradicate poverty. He cannot inspire the Christians in our modern world right now to eradicate poverty, to produce better technology, to get rid of famine, right? To get rid of poverty, to provide better health insurance, to provide better health, induce and invoke and inspire Christians or humans to increase their knowledge and understanding and wisdom in technology. So we'll be advanced in technology. You see that? He can find a way to create an hospital where if you just walk in, you just go through the radiation, you're immediately healed. The Christian God cannot induce or invoke or inspire humans to do that. But what he did was inspire slavery. 2, then he also inspired war. He waged war. He created war. Brothers and sisters, here's a perfect example of Satan. The Christian God is Satan. Light and peace, brothers and sisters. Bye-bye now.